Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Yeah, glad you're with us here on the Sports IQ. Larry Smith, Friday Eve, we've almost made it to the weekend, and what a weekend it is coming up. Week 3 of college football, lots of action coming up. Also, the WNBA playoffs begin this weekend. Regular season ends tonight, and joining us in just a couple of minutes here, it is Stephen PridGeon-Garner, WNBA journalist, covers the Phoenix Mercury, also the Chicago Sky. One of those two teams will not be playing this weekend. We'll talk more about that. MVP race, Coach of the Year. It's sizing up. Listen, you've got 5 or 6 teams right now that really can make some noise in these playoffs, and we'll discuss that in a couple of minutes. College football as well, getting you ready. Zach Smith is along today to talk about Baylor. The Bears taking on Samford this weekend, but coming off that big upset win over SMU that kind of even out the bad taste after losing to Auburn in the opener. Zach's on the way a bit later. It's Purdue USC this weekend in the Big Ten. Ryan Dowd joining us from Boyle Sports to talk about the Boilers and their new situation with Coach Odom there in West Lafayette. So lots going on. Let's get to some headlines right now before we bring in Steven. September, of course, also means playoff pushes and in some cases playoff collapses, and that's where we're going to start today. At the NL East race, we're an election, all the major networks would be calling this one right now as over. Last night, the Phillies made quick work of the Mets for a third straight night, beating the New Yorkers 11-3. Max Kepler homering and driving in 5 runs. Bryce Harper also went deep. The Phillies lowering their magic number to clinch the NL East to just 7. Philadelphia now a 10-game lead on New York with just 16 games to play. The Mets might want to take heed from something the great Satchel Paige once said, quote, "Don't look back. Something might be gaining on you." In that case, that something will be the Cincinnati Reds and the San Francisco Giants. Last night in San Diego, Ellie De La Cruz and pinch hitter Miguel Andujar delivering RBI singles in the 8th. Reds over the Padres 2-1. Cincinnati taking 2 out of 3 in this series. So the Reds now tied with San Francisco. The Giants losing to Arizona 5-3. Both teams sitting just 2 back of the Mets for that final wild card spot in the National League. Cubbies getting a game on the Brewers in the NL Central, 3-2 win over the Braves. Milwaukee dropped a 6-3 decision to the Rangers in Arlington. In the American League, all 3 of the East contenders took it on the chin last night. The Tigers broke open a close game, scoring 8 runs in the 8th and 9th innings against the beleaguered Yankees bullpen as they crushed the Bronx Bombers 11-1. In Toronto, Yainer Diaz drilled a tie-breaking home run in the 9th. Carlos Correa hit his 200th career homer. The Astros over Toronto 3-2. And the Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman finally gave up a run after 17 straight scoreless appearances, gave up a walk-off single to Lawrence Butler in the A's 5-4 win. By the way, just one contest in the W last night. Brittany Griner, 17 points off the bench. Ryan Howard added 15. Atlanta over Connecticut, 88-72. They move into second place in the standings. Atlanta, 30-14, record number of wins for that franchise. Just the 6th team in league history to reach 30 wins during the regular season. Remember, they did expand the schedule to 44 games this year. The Dream can secure the number 2 seed in the playoffs if Las Vegas loses to Los Angeles tonight. Okay, today is the final day of the WNBA playoffs, or WNBA regular season, I should say. The playoff field is now set, 1 through 8. Joining us once again, friend of the show, Stephen PridGeon-Garner. He is a journalist for PHNX Sports. It's the guy, man, covers the WNBA inside and out. Stephen, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Larry. I'm looking forward to having another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about this right now. Listen, it's funny. All season long, the story has been Minnesota. But right now, Las Vegas, they're going to lose at some point, but they look like a juggernaut right now. And if there's one team you don't want to face, it's Las Vegas. What happened that they turned things around and now they can't be stopped?
Yeah, well, it's bold to assume that they're going to lose another game, considering they haven't lost in a month and a half at this point. But I mean, it's honestly, it's as simple as having Asia Wilson and not having Asia.
Yeah.
You lose the best player in the W, and then you gain the best player in the W. I will credit Becky Hammond and company with going to add Nalissa Smith. She's been very important for everything that they've established prior to and then in addition to getting back Asia Wilson. But I also want to shout out players like Dana Evans that stepped up in their role, that have bought into their role, that figured out how to play their role to put their teammates in the best position to be successful, and just 10 toes down bought into it. And then naturally with the buy-in part, you get Jewel Lloyd, multi-time champion, gold medalist, scoring champ, buying into a role to be a sixth player for the betterment of the team. When you have that type of buy-in to where players are being selfless for the greater cause, in addition to getting back the best player in the W, you're working with something.
Yeah, and it does feel like that when that happened, that she, like you said, a scoring star her whole career, a superstar her whole career, saying, "I'll come off the bench."
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the mentality shifted from that point on, and then they just get back Cheyenne Parker-Tyus, who just gave birth 2 months ago, and she's back playing basketball. How amazing is that?
Yeah, women are unbelievable.
Yeah,
because I've been trying to wrap my head around that as they made the announcement that she would come back. I think it was Tuesday when the news broke.
Yeah,
she's special. Women in general are special, and that's an added bonus for them because what they got with Alyssa, Cheyenne Parker-Tyus adds a little bit more versatility to the room for them on both ends of the floor, and she is eager to get back on the court and get back involved with everything. So that's going to be another wrinkle that adds to everything that they have going on. I do also want to make sure we shout out Jackie Young because her playmaking growth this season and her ability to leverage and balance the playmaking and scoring has really added, again, just another rung to everything that is Asia Wilson with Chelsea Gray. You get Jackie stepping up and roll to where a lot of times she looks like the second best player on the team from a scoring and production output on offense. That hits different when you got Chelsea Gray doing all of the point guard things that she does if you have another scorer that's able to do some things with the ball as well.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And we should give credit to, like I said, all the Aces players. Obviously, in the offseason, they trade Kelsey Plum to Los Angeles. They bring in Jewel Lloyd, a three-team deal there. It took them a while to figure things out. I mean, this was not a Becky Hammond team at the All-Star break. I mean, but it was since then they've been unbelievable. They finish off against the Sparks tonight. They have to win to grab the number 2 spot because Atlanta got the win last night to finish off. Franchise record 30 wins. Carl Semesco, for me, it's between him and Natalie Nakase of the expansion. Golden State is your coach of the year. Hard to. For me, it's hard not to pick him. But Natalie's got a great case as well. Atlanta, another team that not a 15-game win streak, but again, playing their very best basketball when it matters most.
Atlanta is very special because in the league that's downsizing, going with one big on the floor most of the time, they went and got 2 of the best and one of the best of all time in Brittany Griner. And everybody's looking like that's not going to work. How is it going to exist defensively? How can they coexist offensively? And the answer to that is Brianna Jones buying into a new role, stepping out, taking some threes, doing a little bit more playmaking work from the perimeter when they're on the floor together. And then when she's on the court by herself, absolutely dominating the paint, different from any other player in the W comprehensively this season. And you put that in tandem with everything that is the growth of Alicia Gray, who's been forgotten in a lot of MVP conversations, but not the ones that I'm allowed to have a say-so in because she's been sensational for the in and out of the lineup with injuries that have been going on with Jordan Canada and Ryan Howard. Alicia Gray and her three-point shooting and her scoring and getting downhill and just getting a paint touch. It's been very special to see her step into her own even more. She already had a career season last year. She doubled down on that by buying into the role with Carl Smesco, and that's a team that also gets after it on the defensive end. They don't have a player that you can say, let's bring this player into action and see if they can guard because they all guard, and they all do a good job helping each other out as well. And then if you happen to get past someone on the perimeter, now you got trees galore to worry about in the paint. And when to that point, I know we talked about their 2 versions of the skyscrapers, but you also want to shout out Naz Hillman because she's been amazing for them this season. Had multiple stretches where she looked like she would be the 6th player of the year at multiple times.
Yeah, in fact, I think you got to consider her for most improved player award this year.
Yes.
so well this season. We talked with one of the dream players on the WNBA and Ion show on Friday night, and ask about it. It's Carl Semesco, and she said, "Well, he's just kind of goofy, brings a lot of dad jokes, but clearly he said they've bought into what he's talking about." There's a team that has been on top the entire season, the Minnesota Lynx, that kind of almost gets forgotten right now because because of the Aces and because of the Dream. Is Minnesota still the team to beat, or is there another team in that conversation?
I mean, there's teams in the conversation, but it starts with the Minnesota Lynx.
Yeah.
When you have that sizable of a gap that you've established to where you miss Nafisa Collier for 2 to 2.5 weeks and you lose no ground from that ground that you had established in terms of distance between 1 and 2, they are the gold standard in the W right now. And it's for the simple fact that they just execute and continue. It's just a chain that keeps on going offensively, defensively. They have a team that's crafted specifically for the skill sets of Cheryl Reeve. I had the privilege of talking with her a little bit earlier this season when they were in Phoenix. And just asked her about the defense because their defense feels like it's unique from other teams. And she said going into last season, they kind of compiled some data and said they need to shift some things around. Mm-hmm. And with that shifting around, she said you don't get to having an impact there. And I think the buzzword for today's show is buy-in. She mentioned having everybody buy into those roles, doing all the little things that they need for that ecosystem to be its best version of itself. And here we are, looking at them as the gold standard of the W right now.
Yeah, they've been fantastic. They won even when their superstar Nafisa Collier was out for almost 3 weeks, right, with that ankle injury. And here they are. They'd already locked out the number 1 seed, so they've rested Fee. And why not? I think that right now they're going to have home court edge throughout. I'm with you. I think you have to knock them off. The one team, the way it's setting up right now is New York, the defending champs at the 5 seed. And I mentioned earlier this week, I mentioned on the Ion show Friday night that the other night, their last game was only the 7th time since June 15th that the big three of Ionescu, Jones, and Stewart have all been in the starting lineup together. That's a potentially, now if you can get past Phoenix and Ms. Triple Double Thomas AT, if you can get past them, that's a crazy matchup. A healthy New York team against Minnesota. New York, before all the injuries, they started off 9-0, 8-0 in the regular season this spring.
Yeah, they were off to something very, very special. Watching them early in the season, I was genuinely afraid for everyone else because it was like, okay, this team just won the championship, and then they went and added a player like Natasha Cloud, who has championship experience and has been playing with those expectations for a majority of her career with the Mystics. And then you also go and find kind of gems like Beck Gardner to come and add to everything that was the kind of blue collar realm of your team that won a championship the year before, but Naja Laney being out, and obviously having Kayla Thornton having lost her to expansion. Having players on the margins to kind of add to the things that you're looking to do is what really got them that championship last season. The top end talent was what it was, but those blue collar efforts from the role players, it just hits so differently, and it's unaccounted for at points when you're looking at it from a Minnesota perspective, where you're working to take away as much as you can from Stewie, Jonquel, and obviously Sabrina Ionescu, and then Kayla Thornton's knocking down almost every corner 3 that she takes, and Benijah Laney's doing the things that she's doing. 2 different players, but they have some pieces now with this roster that I feel like have that big game step up ability. You look at obviously Tosh Cloud, like I mentioned. They have some things, man, and I'm not gonna gloss over the ups and downs that they've had, because when they're healthy, and now they've added Emma Meeseman to that mix as well.
Yeah,
not a fun team to deal with.
No, they're scary. Yeah, I mean, Meeseman, 3-time champion over 3-time MVP, I should say, last 3 years over in Europe. And of course, a former finals MVP in the W. So yeah, it's not like she can't play. And Johannes off the bench as well. They've, like you said, they're just loaded. Sabali, I mean, they've got so many weapons there, and now they're all healthy. It's a dangerous team. It's going to be a fun, competitive playoffs starting here this weekend. I want to get your thoughts before I let you go. Who's your champion? Who's your MVP? And who's your coach of the year?
Yeah, let's start with the MVP conversation. And I just would like to say, just for general discourse, that you don't have to diminish or strip down someone else's greatness, because this is greatness that we're talking about, to kind of put on a pedestal who you believe the MVP is. I preface with saying that you have a team that goes on this significant of a win streak, and you also have a player that's spearheading a lot of that in ways that continue to break history. It narrative wise, it's really hard to not say that Asia Wilson isn't the MVP, especially if they win tonight and they ultimately finish with the 2 seed.
Yeah.
It's hard not to, for that team was in dire straits, like you said, right before the All-Star break. That was not a Becky Hammon team typically. They get their best player back. They kind of find their footing. She gets her feet wet, and then she just kind of, it's order restored essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa Thomas was my MVP for pretty much the entire season up until this past week where they lost 2 games. That's tough because I don't want Alyssa Thomas's all-time great playmaking season. I mean, she just outdone herself essentially in multiple respects. Yeah, Asia, I'm not privy to not privileged to having a vote yet, but Asia will be the MVP. That narrative is, it's just hard to go up against. But to that point though, Coach of the Year is another fun conversation. You mentioned the 2 top tier candidates. I err on going with Natalie Nakase, and I say that because the adversity that comes with having a team that's an expansion, for one, but for 2, a team that also lost their 2 best players for the home stretch of the season. And you're looking at Kayla Thornton, and then you're also looking at I forgot the guard slipping off the top of my head. But yeah, you lose your 2 best players and you have to tip Hayes, and then you have to worry about restructuring your lineups and leaning into other players. And Natalie Nakase's lineups just continue to just find ways to shapeshift. Veronica Burton turns into one of the 5 best guards in the W this season. That changes a lot. So I err on giving it to her, but it's like a 51-49 type situation for me. Very, very close. And honestly, if Atlanta ends up with the 2 seed, I might end up switching with them. So by the end of tonight, that answer might change.
Okay.
My champion right now would be the Minnesota Lynx. They simply out execute everybody. You have the margin for error is essentially non-existent when you're going up against them. Coaching wise, they typically have the advantage from the sideline as well. And they also have an MVP caliber player of their own in the Feast of Collier. So that would be my pick at this present moment. But I do think that either of the 2 teams from the other side of the bracket in Vegas or Atlanta could give them some push. And obviously Phoenix or New York could in the second round from whoever wins that first round matchup as well.
Yeah, it's a deep pool of a lot of talent. Stephen, we'll leave it there. A little bit out of time here, but we appreciate your time as always. Enjoy the games. Thanks for joining us here on this Thursday, and we'll try to reach out later on as we get deeper into the playoffs.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to talking again. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much once again, Stephen PridGeon-Garner. He is the journalist for PHNX Sports, covering the WNBA for us. Regular season finishes up tonight, and look forward to the playoffs beginning this weekend. Should be good. All right, we've got more to come. Stay with us.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here. Talking more college football right now. And one of the big games over the weekend last week was Baylor taking down then number 17 SMU in big fashion. The Bears get Stanford this week. I want to talk more about this program, though. Zach Smith joining us here for the first time on the show. Baylor's beat writer for the Waco Tribune-Herald. Did I get that correct?
Absolutely. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful, but you got it.
I love it. Zach, good to have you here on the show. Let's talk first about this big win last week. Baylor program, always competitive. This was big for the program to get a win like this in September.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a team that I think coming into the season had a lot of expectations and, big goals. They didn't have anybody drafted in last year's draft, and that was kind of disappointing for the fan base and the school. But I think what it signaled was everybody was kind of coming back. Some players that could have gone to the draft came back because they kind of knew what they had. And so I think what this win did particularly is especially after the season opening loss to Auburn. You kind of get beat up, allow a lot of yards, all that. You go to a former conference rival, and you have this epic comeback, and you really kind of show what you're about. You kind of tick off some of the boxes that, you wanted to see going into the year. The defense, well, it took its lumps and had its problems, got stops when you needed to. And then Sawyer Robertson continues to kind of rocket up the Heisman charts, and that offense continues to just be, what everyone expected. And so what that win did was really kind of solidify what Baylor wants to be and what they kind of believe they can be as we move into pretty much Big 12 play moving forward.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the thing we've talked about, and we'll get to in a minute, how competitive the Big 12 is. So, last year we saw that, and we expect the same thing this year. So many really good teams there at the top, not just parity makes it sound like everyone's average. That's not the case. I mean, there are a lot of really good teams there. Which one is going to come out on top? But I think also Baylor should get credit for it's the rare program that plays, as you take a look, two other Power 4 opponents in the non-conference slate. We don't see that very often from anybody.
I mean, and I think that they are actually one of two schools in the country that play 11 Power 5 opponents throughout the year, TCU being the other one, ironically, their big rival. But I think, again, Baylor is not afraid of anyone. I think they want more of the national spotlight. They want to have some attention. I think every school does. That's we're in the attention economy. Everybody wants attention. The Big 12 is doing stuff with, Dave Portnoy and the WWE just to get attention. And I think Baylor playing these big games against these big schools just, it's just part of that. And they think they have the team to compete against these big schools, and they're happy to do it.
Yeah, and I think even though, like you mentioned, the opening loss to Auburn, disappointing, like you said, not what you were looking for, but if you get down to November and you are one of those teams, right, that's in the mix for one of the 12 spots in the college football playoff, that I think that has to come into play, I would think. I don't want to overlook Sanford here this weekend, but obviously the Big 12 is coming up after that game. You have Arizona State coming off its loss last week to Mississippi State, but a chance to start the Big 12 in a big way against the team that won the Big 12 last year and went into the playoff and really, almost kind of came out of nowhere, had the big run in conference play in October, November to get that spot and then make a name for themselves in the Big 12 championship. And then here's a chance now again for Baylor to get another big win here in September if they can take down the Sun Devils.
Yeah, it's a huge start to the Big 12 season. It would really, I know that Arizona State losing last week to Mississippi State kind of changes maybe the hype level, maybe from a national perspective of that game. But I still really think starting with Arizona State, a team like that, that really sets the tone for the Big 12. And like I was mentioning before, Baylor has high expectations to get back to Arlington, to push for the college football playoff, and to do it against a team like Arizona State that talks a lot. You hear a lot about them. They have some explosive players. It's a great opportunity, and it's going to be a night game. It's going to be at home, and so I expect McLean Stadium to be packed and loud. And it's going to be a great opener. And it's just Baylor's opening schedule is a gauntlet. When you look at Auburn and SMU, and then opening with Arizona State, and then you get Kansas State and go to TCU, and it is if Baylor wanted to test its mettle, right from the jump, they are getting tested. And I think what that probably, if you look towards the end of the season, maybe they can have another strong finish like they did last year and maybe get some momentum headed into the postseason. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves, or I am at least. So Arizona State, yes, big game, great opportunity to set the tone for the rest of the Big 12 conference season.
Absolutely. And one thing I noticed too, I feel like that the Big 12 too often on the national picture gets left out of the conversation. Obviously the SEC and the Big 10, the massive TV contracts, the ACC is East Coast, and therefore they're going to get attention in the media because they're East Coast. And then there's the Big 12 that I think is always in every sport is uber competitive. And yet I'm looking even at the rankings, and if I'm correct, I have only two teams in the AP Arizona State, BYU are at the bottom of the coaches poll. But again, I'm like, I don't think that is exemplary of the talent that's here. And obviously, it's early September. It's week 3. But I would love to see the media kind of focus more on what's happening in the Big 12 and give the conference some love.
I mean, you're right. But I do weirdly understand why. It's just like so much of our oxygen in Waco has over the offseason was like taken up by that Auburn game to open the season and focusing on what Auburn is and who they had and all these players. And Auburn is, probably a middling SEC team. Like, I don't think they're going to win the SEC. They could maybe, but they still, even if they're middling SEC, they have NFL draft players, like players that are going to play, surefire NFL draft guys, like up the wazoo. Whereas Baylor, Sawyer Robertson probably would start for a lot of SEC teams. Bryson Washington probably would start for a lot of SEC teams. Maybe Keaton Thomas, our middle linebacker. But other than that, like, the depth in the NFL players for the next level maybe isn't as deeper. So, and that's conference wide. And so I agree with you that I would like to see the Big 12 get more love, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they don't.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So let's talk back to Baylor and the Big 12 coming up again. Stanford, here is the game this weekend. We know about Robertson. He's a player that everybody, I think, any college football fan knows and appreciates what he can do. But what does Baylor have to do the way you see it with this roster, the way it's made right now, the schedule in front of them? What do the Bears have to do to maximize their potential and be a team that gets to Arlington in December?
I think what this week is perfect for, and what Stanford is perfect for, is kind of getting some confidence on the defensive side of the football. Because through the first 2 weeks of the season, Baylor's defense has not been very good. They rank, in the last, like fourth from last in terms of points given up and yards given up, and it just hasn't been good. And so what I think Stanford offers, they have they have a dynamic offense, a very high tempo offense, lots of yards. And so I think what this is going to give Baylor the chance to do is really solidify who they are defensively and maybe gain some confidence on that side of the ball and really find out who your guys are, who your playmakers are, and how much depth you have. So I think as you move forward, even if you go look ahead to Arizona State, like Baylor's defense and kind of finding the right combination, who's going to work where is it going to be? That is the key. And that's what's going to either take Baylor to the college football playoff or just a bowl game. Because we know what Sawyer Robertson can do. We know what this offense can do. The defense is where I think 99% of the questions are for this team.
Yeah, it's exciting, though, to see what may happen here with Baylor. We mentioned Arizona State, Oklahoma State. Will still be licking their wounds from the complete thrashing they got out in Eugene. Mike Gundy, stop talking. Stop giving bulletin board material.
What happened in Oklahoma State, man? That's so sad.
It was, I couldn't help but laugh. Not that I have any, hatred for Oklahoma State, but like, oh my, with all the comments, and yeah, by the way, you had this guy named T. Boone Pickens. His name's everywhere. Yeah, you guys have got money too. So anyway, Zach, listen, great to meet you. Great to talk with you here about Baylor. Look forward to working on these things here this week. And we think they're a team that's in the mix here later in the season. So hopefully we come knock on your door and you'll answer. We can talk with you again later on in the season.
Absolutely. Anytime. Happy to be here.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. Zach Smith, once again, he's the Baylor beat writer for the Waco Tribune-Herald. And coming up, it is, again, Baylor hosting Stanford. Their final test, their only non-Power 4 opponent they will have this entire season. Later in the year, keep that in mind. If they're one of those teams right there, 9-10 wins, and they're in the mix in the conversation, Big 12 play begins for them after that. Okay, it's the Sports IQ. We've got more college football talk up next.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Obviously, September, college football, big matchup this weekend of the Big Ten. Purdue breaking in a new coach, 2-0 start right now, taking on USC. Ryan Dowd, who is the founder of Boyle Sports, joining us right now. Ryan, welcome to the Sports IQ.
are you? Thanks for having me, Larry. Really
Absolutely. You got it, man. Hey, listen, it has been, we were talking here before we went on the air. Your tenure with Purdue sports goes back to the Joe Tiller era. So you've got some great stories. Listen, it's got to feel good to come out of the box here 2-0. It's been kind of a tough run here these past couple of years since Jeff Brom left.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a tough couple of years. I mean, like even the Brom era had, some rocky places. I mean, you're in the region where they probably hate Jeff Brom, but at Purdue, we really were fond of Jeff. And the thing that was so hard was his flirtations with other programs. He flirted with Tennessee right away. Of course, Louisville was always hanging over our head. So it's an era that if you talk to Purdue fans, it's mixed. Like people really like him and what he did for the program, and his personality was great. He was a good fit with the university and all that. But at the same time, it wasn't a golden era by any means. And for guys like me, of course, we remember the Tiller era, and that was a truly golden era, and it really rivals only Jack Mollenkoff's era. It's been a tough, typical Purdue 20 years if you really look at it statistically, sadly. But the way they get there is just kind of violent ups and downs, and hopefully we're in the midst of an uptick right now.
Everyone always trying to get on top and stay on top. And the Big Ten now expanded, 18 teams. What have you seen here in these first couple of games that gives you some hope that maybe you didn't see these past couple of years under Ryan Walters?
The biggest thing, I think we've been talking about this a lot just in the last 2 weeks, is the discipline of the team is really refreshing. We haven't seen discipline like this since the middle of the Tiller era. We've all tried to figure out what was the last truly disciplined Purdue football team. And I have some friends that played from different eras, and I've kind of put it out there just to ask them, okay, tell me a time where the team was really disciplined and I missed it. Because even in years where Purdue was a bowl team, they weren't exceptionally disciplined. They would make boneheaded moves. If you remember during the Brom years, they would have a problem where you'd have dumb penalties at the end of the games, would make games stupidly close because a drive that should be over would be extended by a 15-yard penalty. This team this year, I think, is one of the best in the conference. I think they're second. They're tied with only 5 penalties in 2 games. So they're playing really sound football, and Barry Odom's kind of an old school guy. So it's fun to see a different way of solving the problem, if you will. But I think he's very, very aware of the fact that there's a lot of developments needed. Even during the season, the guys are going to have to develop to get better and compete with the elite of the league, let alone even competing with the middle of the league. When I look at the athletes and some of the guys that have transferred in, they've got their work cut out for them, and it's going to take a colossal coaching effort for them to get to sniff a bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, here's a question that I've got for you is that, the issue of the NIL and transfer portal, all of that, it is the word that I've heard these past few years coming out of West Lafayette is that the NIL dollars, the booster money, isn't there at Purdue the way it may be at other Big Ten schools or other Power 4 programs as well. Is that the case? Has that been solved, or how's that looking right now?
We're still in flux right now because of that court ruling, and I think that's going to favor Purdue. The Purdue way, I think, is generally, people want to embrace the players, want to get to know them, want to relate with them. And it's been really hard because last couple of years, the best players that have been developed have headed out. Even guys that are legacy players, Thieneman, Karloftis specifically, you think of those 2 guys, they're not here anymore. And that's killed Purdue fans. A lot of Purdue fans, in fact, in spite of the fact Purdue has got incredible ticket sales this year, in my opinion, coming off a 1-win season. And not only a 1-win season, a season where they just didn't compete game in, game out. Yeah. So Purdue fans have really hopefully invested, I think, in the fact that maybe things are changing. But at the same time, I think it's a logical fan base. I say it all the time. One of the biggest problems Purdue has is how logical the fan base is. You got a lot of engineers, you got a lot of really smart people. Wish I was one of them. But all these people that are so logical won't just throw money at the problem. And on top of that, you don't have a ton of Subway alums like you do at some bigger programs where you've got people that just see it as entertainment. Almost everybody that roots for Purdue either A, went there, their dad went there, somebody went there. And there are very rare cases, and I applaud these people who have chosen this tough assignment to be a Purdue fan year in, year out. But there are just not a lot of people that just glom onto Purdue for the fun of it because, let's be real honest, it's tough to root for a team that struggles. And as a result, I think the NIL coffers have been hurt. They did a really big, obviously the Purdue's NIL collective officially dissolved because of the change of rule. But they were doing a decent job. They just weren't doing a job that was as good as the elite. Oregon, Ohio State, those teams. It's a different ball game, right? You're competing on a place you can't really get to.
Yeah, that's fair. Talking with Ryan Dowd as Purdue is taking on USC here this weekend. It's got to be tough as well. That I think of the Big Ten and kind of that area right there where you could almost hitchhike between the schools, Purdue, Indiana, and Illinois. The other two schools right now having a renaissance in football. I mean, you look at the top 25. You see Illinois at 9 and Indiana at 21, and you go, wait a minute, is this basketball? I mean, this isn't right. And so, but you've got the other two rivals right there that have actually had a good couple of years. And I think about, again, with Purdue, you're exactly right. It feels like Purdue football. I don't know if we have any Kings of Comedy fans out there, but it's like Luther Vandross and the curl. The curl never quite curled. I mean, you land Jeff George and then you change your offense and you lose him. I mean,
right.
And then like you get Joel Tiller. I mean, you're right. It's like something, it feels like Purdue gets it. You get Hudson Card. 2 years ago, you win him and he doesn't turn out the way. It feels like there's always something that happens with Purdue football. So I'm glad I'm not the only way. It's not just from the outside. It's somebody right there next to it.
It's a tough thing. Hudson Card, I got to meet him quite a few times, was like the nicest dude, number one. Great story on how they recruited him, got him landed. The problem, it felt like to me, is the guy just got broken mentally because of the situation. It wasn't really anything he could have done. Even to this day, right now, I'm like, man, I think that guy can still play. And he just wasn't given a showcase, a place to show it. Regarding Illinois and IU right now, it's pretty wild to see how good they are. I saw Illinois really catapulting up. Now they're up in the top 10. They're in a great place. It's funny when you talk to Purdue fans that are diehards that maybe we're maybe not completely unbiased, but the people that say, how does Purdue get to a bowl this year? You have to start picking upsets, right? So somebody said, okay, the surprises would be Illinois and IU. And I'm like, those would be huge surprises. You cannot discount right now how good those teams are. I know Illinois has struggled versus Purdue in recent years, but I'm like, man, this is different. They've got talent all over the field. They're really veteran laden. They've got some talented guys, but even the talented guys are young. They've got to develop. And you look at these guys, I noticed this in press conferences recently. Compare a press conference with a team like Oregon or Illinois, and look how big the dudes are. And look at the Purdue guys. The Purdue guys that are being showcased, they're not the biggest, widest guys. So it's like every one of them would really behoove them to have another year or two of getting in the weight room and packing on a couple extra pounds. That stuff wears you down in a Big Ten season. I'm well aware of that. And I'm hoping some of the scheme can make a difference, but I don't know how much of a difference.
Yeah. Purdue has Illinois' number. There's no question what has happened there. That I can tell you over in Champaign, I'm sure that they are concerned about that game as a trap game in between USC and Ohio State. But speaking of the Trojans right now, one of the newcomers to the Big Ten, what do you see with the concerns right now with USC and standing in the way of Purdue getting to 3-0?
I don't know everything. I watch, you watch them play and you see how they won the first two games. And, I really like Purdue's defensive backfield, but boy, are they going to be tested this week. And I've been talking about this. When you look at Purdue's athletes versus USC's athletes, you've got 4-star guys all over the field, even in down times for USC. 13th best recruiting class, 18th best recruiting class the last 2 years. Purdue hasn't had a 13th best recruiting class in my life, I think. And an 18th best back when Tiller was there. Getting top 20 was really, really special. That doesn't mean you're ruled out. It just means, boy, you're going to get tested. And these USC guys on the outside are tough medicine. And Purdue has played 2 teams so far, simply couldn't test them on the outside. And Purdue's rush got in the Ball State's face really bad where they didn't have any time. Last week, again, Ball State and Southern Illinois both had the same issue, or Purdue had the same issue with both of them. Their quarterbacks were probably their best athletes on the field, and Purdue really couldn't contain them when they really needed to. So that's a big concern for me too, is how can you contain and how can you make the plays shorter, right? So they got to get some pressure on them, and there's some guys that can do it. Manny Powell's a guy you might want to watch for Purdue this week. He's a very good athlete. He's a longer guy. He's an older guy for Purdue. He's one of those guys that is he's a developed player, and I think he could make some noise, and I'm hoping he does. If he doesn't, if Purdue can't put pressure on the quarterback, they're in big trouble. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it's first year there under Coach Odom, and so again, transfer guys, new guys coming in. What Signetti did last year in Indiana is just ridiculous in terms of a first-year thing. But yeah, you've got some new guys you're rebuilding. I want to go back, by the way, to Georgia Southern. What makes it worse is Statesboro, Georgia. I'm not sure they even have an airport. I mean, I guess maybe a landing strip. I don't know.
How do you recruit?
Just to get out of there, to get west, you got to probably change planes twice. So you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Big Ten, obviously, the big boys are there. Ohio State, Penn State, 1-2. Last year's Big Ten champ. Oregon's right there. Michigan. Look, they've got some pieces. They competed well. Didn't win the game the other night, but they competed well. We talked about Illinois, Indiana. USC is there. People are, think Washington may have a comeback here after, 2 years moved from the title game. Where do you see Purdue fitting in, and what do they kind of have to do to get above 500 in conference?
Well, so it's easy to say you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. The problem Purdue has is really the teams they're supposed to beat, they've played them. That's the hardest thing. When you look at the schedule, I don't know if they'll be favored again this season. That is a wild thing. I can't remember a Purdue season like that where you came in and it was like that bleak. Honestly, Hazel's last season was close, and it's not ancient history, which sadly. But you look at, I think there are a couple teams they're winnable games, and I hate saying that because that came to bite Scott Frost years ago. He said that against Purdue. Purdue was a winnable game for Nebraska, and Purdue ended up beating them at Nebraska. So when you say the word, it's a simple phrase, winnable game. It means something to Purdue fans because they're like, oh, be careful. Right. Yeah. But I always say, I'm just a dummy that talks about this on a podcast. I'm not the guy who needs to think about this seriously. I think Barry Odom takes every game very seriously. He talked about this with Ball State because a lot of the media was saying, oh man, it's nice to have these tune-ups. And he said, hey, you stop that. We're not taking this as a tune-up. Neither of these two games. And Purdue looks serious. That's, again, that maturity, the discipline and the seriousness. I think Odom's got that down. And that's quite a contrast to Walters, who was a player's coach. He was young, good looking guy. He, having a good time, it seemed like. And Odom, at times you got to say, are you enjoying this job? Do you like what you're doing? And he admitted that he was really stressed out before Ball State. But if I look at the entire conference, the media says Purdue's going to finish last. Almost every person in the media says Purdue's going to finish last. Last year, they said Purdue was going to finish last. And I was like, oh man, media don't know what they're talking about. And I was like, not only they finished last, they left no doubt. They were the worst team in the conference. So this year I'm hoping for, if you can get up to 13, 14, that's a pretty good season. Because if you do that, you're probably 5 wins. You're probably flirting with a bowl. I would love to get this team to 5 wins. I can't stress it. If you look at the schedule, if you really done what I've done too many times, you'll say, where do you find these wins? That's the hardest thing. You have to steal a lot of games. And what I'm hoping for, which this is just hope, is that we've seen a limited version of the playbook so far, and there's more that's going to open up. Purdue's going to get 2 receivers back off injury. That's a big deal. And so the offense might look a little bit more difficult to guard. But if you look at the way they've controlled the clock, they're not calling a lot of plays. There's not much explosiveness yet. So we're gonna have to see a change for them to flirt with where I would love for them to be. But I'm guessing I've stuck with 4 wins over and over this season. Getting 2 more after this is going to be hard. And then if you look at the back half of the season, that's where it's really tough because that back half of the season is absolutely brutal. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like you said, just try to find a way. Leave some doubt in terms of being the worst team. Exactly. Leave a little doubt. Yeah, just, let's leave some doubt. Hey, Ryan, listen, man, great to talk with you. Really enjoyed meeting you. And I know we have basketball season coming up. If football doesn't work out, we'll be reaching out to chat again. That sounds great. Thanks for your time. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Once again, Ryan Dowd, the founder of Boyle Sports. Glad to have him here on the show. Purdue, USC coming up here this weekend. Big Ten play getting underway in 2025. All right, we got more to come on the Sports IQ. Stay with us. Welcome back here. We've got producer Tony with his microphone turned on. Tony, want to talk a little WNBA playoffs as we're, getting some positioning here with some games tonight. We'll find out, kind of get the seeding in place after tonight. But we know the 8 teams, and you were saying in the break after we talked to Stephen PridGeon-Garner earlier in the show that the team that really intrigues you is the defending champion, New York Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Talk about a group who is getting healthy at the right time. I mean, the fact that they've had so few games where you've had Jonquil Jones and Stewie and Ionescu all available at the same time, and they're still where they are. Look, they're a fifth seed, but that talent is not fifth seed talent. You add in Emma Miesemann into that lineup to help out, especially among the front court players. If I'm the Minnesota Lynx, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this is not what we envisioned here. We didn't envision possibly having to go through these guys in the semifinals to just get to the finals. This is not how this is supposed to play out. Come on now. But look, the Liberty are as dangerous a fifth seed as you will ever see in any set of basketball playoffs. This team way more talent than a fifth seeded team. They've just been hit by injuries, and if they're all healthy now, the rest of the league better watch out. It's going to be an interesting run here the next 6 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah. New York begins. We do know they will be at Phoenix, the 5 seed, at the 4 seed in these playoffs beginning here this weekend. And to your point, if you're Minnesota, look, you right now you would get Seattle if Golden State wins tonight. I haven't looked at the tiebreak yet with those two if they tie Golden State, Seattle. But you get a Seattle team that's some of its parts is better than an 8 seed. They have not been consistent, but they're a dangerous 8 seed. Or again, Golden State, they're the 7 if they happen to fall to the 8. If that should happen, same thing. They just set a record most wins ever by an expansion team. They clinched the playoffs a week ago. I mean, that's how solid they have been all season long. So that's round 1. Then in round 2, you get a Liberty team that you beat 3 out of 4, but I don't think because it was so late in the season, they didn't play before late July. This Minnesota team never played a New York team that was fully healthy, 100%. So while you won 3 out of 4, to your point, that ain't easy. The team that you lost by a hair to in the finals last year. Then if you get to the finals, you have a chance of seeing either Atlanta, which is the second hottest team right now, or Las Vegas, which is, so hot that they can see them from space. So, I mean, to your point, it is not an easy road at all if Minnesota's going to get that record 5th title.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you look for in a playoff series. Like every matchup is intriguing. The Valkyries will be playing with house money. They have nothing to lose.
Yep.
Right? They're just going to go out and give it their very best. Vegas, like you said, just hotter than a cheap pistol at this point. I mean, they are going to be tough for anybody to get out of these playoffs. It is going to be exciting. The expanded finals to 7 games now in the WNBA, it's going to be must-see TV. If you are not a WNBA fan, if you watch these players and you can tell me you're still not a fan, then you don't like basketball. And chances are you may not like sports either.
Yeah, it has been. And, it's funny that, as you know, our show ended last week because we only do regular season on Ion. The WNBA and Ion shows on Friday nights, a doubleheader every night. One of our executives was sharing with us that even though, yes, the TV numbers are down for Indiana because of Caitlin Clark's injury, played in only 13 games this season because of her injuries, the viewership for other games is up, which is saying that you have fans tuning in. Yeah, you don't have as many watching Caitlin, but the viewership overall is up. So again, the league's profile is up, et cetera. So to your point, it's there's great basketball there. Don't sleep on Atlanta. Not only have they won 6 in a row to finish the season, 30-14, but they're also 14-8 away from home. That ties Minnesota for the best road record in the WNBA. So this is a team that even though let's just say they wind up facing Minnesota, they're not afraid to go on the road and they know how to win away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. They have remade that team smartly. They've got the bigs, they've got the guards, they can play up tempo, they can play down tempo. They've got just a lot going for them right now, and they've kind of been that team sliding under the radar. Nobody's really talked about the Dream a lot this year. We're hopefully going to have an executive from the Dream on the show next week. We'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. But this has been a great job in Atlanta of getting this core together and having them gel quickly and become a force to be reckoned with in these playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been what he has done there. And I want to give a shout out as well. Stephen mentioned Alicia Gray. If you watched the show, you saw me wearing some Alicia Gray goggles last week, and the Atlanta Dream PR team very smartly sending out a press kit to everybody that included a bedazzled small basketball in Dream colors that, as we understand it, the woman who put those together hand glued every single sequin on all those basketballs that you sent out to probably 50, 60 people. That took a lot to do, but it was a very cool package. Alicia Gray, MVP candidate. Kelsey Mitchell of Indiana, MVP candidate. They're not going to win it, unfortunately. It's going to be, I think either Asia Wilson or Nafisa Collier. But what a team they've got there in Atlanta. Ryan Howard goes off again for 37 and ties her own WNBA record with 9 threes last week. I mean, it is just that Atlanta team. You have Brittany Griner, a future Hall of Famer, coming off the bench, if that tells you anything. So a lot of fun. Regular season finishes off tonight. Okay, our moment of aha is up next. All right, here we go. Moment of awe, 3, 2, 1. Okay, time now for a moment of awe, and maybe in this case today, a moment of the Commanders signing a new punter, Mitch Wishnowski from Australia, to their practice squad. He's from Australia, Mitch Wishnowski, so of course his nickname is the Boomin Onion. I love it. Think of the marketing opportunities there in D.C., in suburban Maryland, in the DMV. Mitch Wishnowski, the Boomin Onion, punting balls in camp right now for the Commanders. We love it. It's good stuff. That's your moment of so appreciate our guests today, Stephen PridGeon-Garner, Zach Smith, Ryan Dowd. Appreciate you stopping by as well. It's a Sports IQ. It's Thursday, making it a great day. September 11th, by the way, we know the date. And again, we keep everyone affected still. Never forget. And a moment of remembrance for everyone involved in that tragedy. Hard to believe now, 24 years ago. Okay, it's a Sports IQ. Make it a great day. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.